I trusted my business partner with everything: money, time, future plans. He stole my idea, registered the company in his name, and threw me out, leaving me with nothing. But he didn't know that he had signed not only my dismissal but also his own sentence. I met Matt Reynolds during a tech conference in San Francisco 5 years ago. We were both ambitious dreamers with a shared vision of disrupting the software industry. Matt had this infectious charisma, tall, confident, with piercing blue eyes that somehow made investors feel both comfortable and excited at the same time. I was the opposite, more comfortable behind a keyboard than in a boardroom, with ideas that I could never quite articulate in a way that made others see their potential. "You know what your problem is, Alex?" Matt said one night as we shared beers at a dive bar near the Moscone Center. "You've got the brains of Wozniak but none of the job's charm to sell it." I laughed, but he wasn't entirely wrong. My previous 2 startups had failed despite solid technical foundations. I couldn't get people to listen long enough to understand what I had built. "We should team up," he said, leaning forward. "Your code, my connections. Silicon Valley wouldn't know what hit them." That night, Script Savvy was born on the back of a cocktail napkin. My revolutionary algorithm for natural language processing would be the foundation. Matt would be the face, the voice, the storyteller who could translate my technical jargon into venture capital dollars. For the first 2 years, it was everything I had dreamed of. We worked out of my garage in Palo Alto, putting in 18-hour days. I coded until my vision blurred, building a framework that could analyze and predict consumer behavior with unprecedented accuracy. Matt took my prototypes to meetings across the Bay Area, coming back with increasingly interested investors. "Grayson from Sequoia wants to meet next week," Matt announced one evening, popping a bottle of champagne. "They're talking about a 7-figure seed round." I remember the way his smile didn't quite reach his eyes that night. Should have been my first warning. As we grew, Matt suggested we formalize our partnership. "Just legal stuff," he said, sliding papers across my desk. 50-50 split, but we need to establish clear roles. You as CTO, me as CEO. Standard Silicon Valley structure. I trusted him. Signed without reading the fine print. Another mistake. We moved into real offices in downtown San Francisco. Hired a team of developers to work under me. Matt brought on marketing people, sales staff. We were suddenly 20 employees strong, with a product that major retailers were lining up to license. Small things started to change. Matt began holding meetings I wasn't invited to. The company credit card I'd used for 3 years was suddenly only for executive staff. When I mentioned it, Matt laughed it off. "Just streamlining operations, buddy. Nothing personal. The board is watching our every move now." The board. Another thing I rarely saw. Investors Matt had brought in who somehow always sided with his vision for the company's future. Then came the profiles in Forbes and TechCrunch. Matt Reynolds, the visionary behind Script Savvy's rise. Articles where my name appeared only once, buried in paragraph 17, described simply as early developer. "It's just PR," Matt assured me. "They need a face for the story. You hate that spotlight anyway." I did hate it. So I let it slide, focusing instead on improving our algorithm, making it faster, more accurate. The work that actually mattered. Last spring, we were approached by Amazon with acquisition talks. Preliminary numbers were being thrown around, 9 figures. My life's work was about to pay off. Matt and I celebrated at a Michelin-starred restaurant in Nob Hill, drinking $1,000 bottles of wine. To Script Savvy, he toasted, clinking his glass against mine. And to the genius who made it possible. I should have noticed the past tense. 3 days later, I received the notification from Bank of America while waiting for my morning coffee at Blue Bottle. "Your access to corporate account number 7789045 has been terminated." I called Matt immediately, standing there on Market Street with my phone pressed against my ear and my heart hammering in my chest. "There's some mistake with the bank," I said when he answered. "My card access is showing as terminated." Silence for a moment. Then, "No mistake, Alex. The board voted yesterday. We're restructuring." "Restructuring what?" "Leadership. The Amazon deal is getting complicated. They want a streamlined executive team. One vision, one leader." My coffee sat untouched on the counter as the barista called my name again. "We're partners, Matt. Equal partners." "Were," he corrected. "Look, I was going to tell you today. The company needs to move in a different direction. You'll get a severance package. Generous one. The legal team is drafting it now." I couldn't process what I was hearing. This is my company too. My algorithm is script-savvy property, he cut in, his voice suddenly cold. "Check the paperwork you signed. All IP belongs to the company, not to individual founders." The formal termination letter arrived by courier the next morning. My key card stopped working. My company email was deactivated. 3 years of work, gone in 24 hours. I spent a week in shock, barely leaving my apartment. Friends from the company texted, then stopped when I didn't respond. What was there to say? I had been outmaneuvered by someone I trusted completely. The severance offer came, a year's salary in exchange for signing a non-compete clause and waiving any claims against Script Savvy. I threw it in the trash. Instead, I started investigating. Called in favors from friends still at the company. Paid a paralegal to pull public records. What I found made my blood boil. 6 months before cutting me out, Matt had quietly reorganized the company structure. Created a parent holding company with himself as sole owner. Transferred all our IP, patents, and trademarks to this new entity. On paper, Script Savvy, my Script Savvy, was now just a subsidiary wholly owned by Matt Reynolds Enterprises. I consulted 3 different lawyers. All said the same thing: I had a case, but it would be expensive, take years, and success wasn't guaranteed. Matt had covered his tracks well, using the legitimate-seeming papers I'd signed against me. But there was one thing Matt didn't know. One detail his lawyers had missed. When we first started, before any formal partnership, I'd registered the core code library with the Copyright Office under my name personally. It was a small thing, something I'd done automatically as I'd done with all my previous projects. Just 16,000 lines of code that formed the foundation of everything Script Savvy did. I didn't go nuclear immediately. That would have been too obvious. Instead, I started planning. First, I reached out to Alara Tech, our biggest competitor. Asked for a meeting with their CTO, Sophia Chen. "I'm not here to give away Script Savvy secrets," I told her in a quiet corner of a Menlo Park coffee shop. "But I am interested in building something better." Sophia was cautious but intrigued. "Why come to us? You could start fresh, raise capital on your reputation alone." "Time," I said simply. "Matt's already got a 3-year head start. Working with an established company cuts that disadvantage in half." We negotiated for weeks. Eventually, I signed on as a technical consultant with a contract that protected my independence while giving Alara access to my expertise, not Script Savvy's IP, but my knowledge of where the technology could go next. For 6 months, I worked silently, methodically. Built a next-generation framework that didn't just match Script Savvy's capabilities but exceeded them. All while watching from afar as Matt took my company to new heights. He bought a $14 million house in Pacific Heights. Landed on the cover of Wired. Started dating a former Victoria's Secret model. Gave a commencement speech at Stanford where he talked about the lonely genius myth and how true innovation is always collaborative. The Amazon acquisition fell through. Matt wanted more control than they were willing to give, but Microsoft stepped in with an even better offer. ScriptSavvy's valuation hit $1.2 billion. Matt became Silicon Valley's newest unicorn creator. Through my remaining contacts, I learned they were preparing for a major platform upgrade. Moving all clients to a new architecture that would lock them into ScriptSavvy's ecosystem for years to come. The launch date was set, press releases drafted. That's when I made my move. My lawyer sent a simple cease and desist letter to ScriptSavvy's legal department. No threats, no demands for money. Just an official notification that they were using copyrighted code without permission, and that permission was hereby revoked. Their lawyers responded predictably, dismissing the claim. So we escalated, filing for an emergency injunction 3 days before their platform-wide update was scheduled. I'll never forget watching the live stream of their launch event. Matt on stage in a black turtleneck and jeans, doing his best Jobs impression, promising revolutionary improvements. His phone buzzed in his pocket midway through the presentation. He ignored it the first time. And the second. By the third call, he pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and visibly paled. The injunction had been granted. A federal judge had ordered an immediate halt to all use of my code library. ScriptSavvy's entire infrastructure collapsed within hours. Their website went down. Client portals stopped functioning. The new platform update, the one Matt had been hyping on stage moments before, was legally barred from deployment. His call came at 2:18 a.m. "What the hell do you want?" His voice was ragged, desperate. "Hello to you too, Matt. Name your price. Whatever it is, we'll pay it. We just need the restriction lifted by morning." I let the silence stretch between us. Let him feel the powerlessness I had felt. "It's not about money," I finally said. "Then what? A position back in the company?" "Fine, you can be CTO again. Co-CEO if that's what you want." "It's too late for that." "God damn it, Alex. Do you have any idea what you're doing? There are hundreds of jobs at stake. Clients who depend on our services." "You mean your services? Isn't that what you've been telling everyone? That ScriptSavvy is your vision, your creation." Another silence. Then, softer, "I screwed up. I know that. But we built this together. Don't destroy it out of spite." "I'm not destroying anything, Matt. I'm just taking back what's mine." He tried bargaining, then threatening, then pleading. I listened to it all, feeling strangely empty. When he finally ran out of words, I simply said, "Goodbye, Matt," and hung up. The next day, Elara Tech announced their new platform, built with my oversight, and offered all ScriptSavvy clients a seamless migration path with 3 months of service free. Within 2 weeks, 80% of ScriptSavvy's client base had jumped ship. Microsoft withdrew their acquisition offer. The board called an emergency meeting and voted unanimously to replace Matt as CEO. It wasn't enough to save the company. ScriptSavvy filed for bankruptcy protection 30 days later. The once billion-dollar unicorn was sold off for parts, its assets barely covering secured creditor claims. Matt tried to rally, to start fresh with new investors. But Silicon Valley has a long memory for failure. Doors that had once been open to him were suddenly closed. His Pacific Heights mansion went on the market. The model girlfriend moved on to a cryptocurrency billionaire. As for me, I declined Elara's offer to join permanently. Instead, I took my consultation fee, substantial but far less than what I would have made as a ScriptSavvy co-founder, and started something new. It's a smaller operation this time. Just 6 of us working out of a converted warehouse in Oakland. We're building something different, focusing on ethical AI that helps small businesses compete with giants. I named the company Phoenix Code. Most assume it's because the technology rose from ScriptSavvy's ashes. Only I know it's named for what I learned, that betrayal can either destroy you or force you to be reborn, stronger and wiser than before. Matt reached out once more, about a year after everything fell apart. Asked to meet for coffee, for old time's sake. Said he had a new venture idea, wanted my input. I didn't respond. Some bridges, once burned, should stay that way. Sometimes at night, I still wonder if it was worth it. If destroying script savvy, and with it, part of myself, was the right choice. If there had been another path that didn't end with so much collateral damage. I don't have an answer. Just the knowledge that in the world of startups and dreams and betrayals, justice and revenge sometimes look remarkably similar. And both leave you wondering what might have been.